Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. Not all the faith journeys we take are good. This week we are looking at people in the Bible who traveled and who, in their journeys, mirror perhaps our own and teach us more about our faith and journeying with God. But sometimes those journeys we make aren't what they are supposed to be. Today's example, Jonah. You probably know Jonah's story well, but let me review the parts where he travels with you. First, Jonah is a prophet of God among his own people, but he doesn't seem so successful. And that's when God calls him to travel to Nineveh to preach. Now let me set the world stage for you a bit with this one. Israel was smack dab in the middle of the two world powers in that day, Egypt and Assyria. And because of the desert, the only way for trade to happen between Egypt and Assyria was for the trade to travel through Israel in either direction. So whoever controlled Israel controlled the trade and could tax the trade going through. Israel was constantly being controlled by Egypt or Assyria, whichever had the greatest power at the time. Of course, Israel viewed both Egypt and Assyria as enemies and wanted them out. So when God calls Jonah to preach to Nineveh, it wasn't something he wanted to do. Nineveh was the capital of Assyria, the very heart of Israel's enemy. Jonah probably couldn't believe his ears. You want me to go preach where? Not there. Anywhere but there. And so Jonah did decide to travel. But he went the other way, as far away from where God wanted him to go as he could get. Perhaps that sounds familiar. Has God ever called you to do something you didn't want to do? It's hard to answer yes in those times. It's important to answer yes in those times, no matter how afraid or repulsed we might be. That was one of the most powerful lessons that Princess Diana taught us all. In the 1980s, as the AIDS epidemic grew, everyone was afraid. No one was sure what this disease was or how it was transmitted. All we knew was that it was deadly. AIDS patients would languish and often spoke how the worst part was that no one would touch them or have human contact with them. And then Diana visited an AIDS clinic, and it was covered by television, and she touched one of the patients, offering up compassion instead of fear. It was a lesson to us all that the way of God overcomes fear. It overcomes fleeing, too, especially when fleeing is what we want to do. Eventually, Jonah learned this lesson, and after the fish spit him up on land, he then journeyed to Nineveh. That was an interesting journey all its own. Jonah's preaching, so unsuccessful in Israel, was highly successful in Nineveh. He moseyed a little way into the city, put down his soapbox, and said, "If you don't repent, God will destroy you." And the people repented. And the funny thing was, Jonah didn't want that either. Jonah regretted God's mercy for his enemy. So in these two journeys of Jonah, we find something surprising. Jonah got a call he didn't want and fled. Then he got a result he didn't want and complained. Maybe the real message is that in both cases, God had mercy. God had mercy on Jonah when he fled and continued to call him to go on his journey to Nineveh. Then God had mercy on Nineveh and again on Jonah when Jonah wasn't happy with God. In the failed and fearful and vengeful journeys of our lives, may God have mercy on us. Thanks for watching. And remember to let this day belong to God.